All right. Happy Tuesday. If you guys are listening to this, I'm recording this at 10:47 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. A brief seg from our regular scheduled programming. And what I mean by that is typically, as you can kind of scroll through, you see that we do deep dives into particular topics. So the last couple episodes or so have been on the metamorphosis of a fifth dimensional being. But then the international slap happened yesterday, and so I wanted to take a brief aside to just discuss it. Now, I'm not going to talk about what most people have been talking about. I'm not even going to talk about what I talked about on my TikTok channel. That was just sort of like my in the moment how I was feeling yesterday when I recorded that episode that I posted to my TikTok channel. But I do want to take a big picture approach, and let's see if we can look at what happened yesterday from as many angles as possible, and what can we learn from this. As I kind of have been ruminating on the event from yesterday, assuming, of course, it was not staged, which a lot of people are saying and claiming that it was. I don't know. We don't know. So I'm going to operate from the standpoint that it was not. It seems to me that I don't understand why Chris Rock would agree to humiliate himself like that on an international theater, like on an international stage. Although some people did comment that it's part of a humiliation ritual of the so-called elites. All right, let's take that. Let's table it, because at the end of the day, I don't like speaking on things that I can't verify. I can just give you what people are saying and kind of go from there. I do like speaking on things that I can't verify, right? Like on the nature of reality, but that's kind of more, I don't know. I don't know. I'm just not comfortable discussing that, because there's nothing, I can't pick up a book and read about that, right? So a lot of the things that we discuss on this channel, there's books on quantum physics, there's, books on the holographic nature of our reality, there's books on, the simulation hypothesis and singularity, there's books on philosophy. Whether or not those quote celebrities have humiliation rituals and things of that nature, I don't have access to those books, so I kind of just table that. That's not what we're going to talk about here. I want to first talk about this thing that we do to each other. Will Smith has lived a damn near as perfect a life as a black man can in this country. I'll say it again. Will Smith has lived about as perfect a life as a black man can in this country. He is like, every time you see this dude, man, this brother's always smiling. He's always happy. He's always positive. And he's about 50 something years old. We've known him from Fresh Prince. We've seen him in Hitch. He's always kind of playing this like clown. And I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. That's what he is. He's always trying to make people laugh, right? But that clearly isn't who he is. This is a grown man with two wives, right? An ex-wife and a present wife. He has 3 children. He grew up in sort of troubled home life. He's repeatedly discussed this. This is a human being. And for what he has accomplished as a black man in this country, we have to sort of give him kudos. I know that some people have been prepared and are prepared to completely throw that individual completely all the way, throw him out, discard him, destroy him. We're disgusted by him. I've seen these sort of comments. And the thing that I'm left saying is, are you fucking perfect? It's really easy to get up on this high horse and point our fingers, right? That's why people do it. Because when you look at a man who's that accomplished, who has succeeded in ways that a lot of people are aspiring to succeed, and many may not ever, right? You look at his avatar, you look at his life, there is some level of envy there. And so when a person makes a mistake, you kind of see the piranhas jump, right, at the sign of blood, right? There's a chink in his armor And so people, not all, some people run through and it's their opportunity to bring him down now. And so I defended him. I defended him because I knew what stance most people were going to take, right? Violence is never the answer. But that's bullshit, isn't it? I don't condone violence, right? But we're not living in a non-violent world. And in some circumstances, if you are under attack, you have the right to defend yourself. What fairy world are people living in where they're typing out these responses like violence is never the answer? Okay, if I walked up to you and I slapped the shit out of you, or if I insulted your child or your mother or whatever, and continuously, or member of your family, you may not act on it, but that doesn't mean you won't feel the urge to. And then there are people who do act on it, who have acted on it. You've never lost your temper and put your hands on somebody. Cool. I guess y'all are fucking perfect. I am not. I've slapped the shit out of people before. I've gotten in people's faces before. I have lost my temper and lost my fucking mind. I actually have it in my notes. Do not hold me accountable for shit that I did when I was unconscious. I'm not, of course, excusing myself. I said I've just put that in my notes. And I probably wrote that shit when I was unconscious. But at the end of the day, are we in heaven? What sort of dream reality are we actually existing in where we're not willing to take a step back and acknowledge the fact that if we were in this brother's shoes and faced with the same circumstances, we would react in the same exact way? If you were born into Will Smith's life, and you lived his life and you went through his experiences and everything leading up to that moment, you would have reacted in the same exact fucking way. Because that's how this world works. That's how the simulation works. Right? Cause and effect. What we witnessed yesterday was the effect of caused instances that he had very little control over, no control over. Road rage. We see people kind of lose it. I'm not saying that that's okay, right? A couple of people were on my TikTok because in my video I said at the end, I don't advocate for violence, but I understand why he did it. And so there was an attempt there for people to try to twist my words. Well, it sounds like you're advocating for violence because you're kind of smirking as you talk about the situation. Yes, I am, because I found that shit funny. And I'm not going to pretend that I didn't. It's inauthentic. Will there come a point in my life where I see a situation like that and I don't take a stance either way and I just go, that's just human beings being human? I'm not there. That shit was funny to me. I'm not going to turn on the camera and then pretend that it wasn't. I understood why Will did it. And if I were in his shoes, I'd do the same thing. Let me take a step back. If I were in his shoes as Joe, I don't know if I would have done the same thing. I don't know if I would have had the courage to get up in front of all those people and risk my career to defend somebody I cared about. I think I would have been almost too PC, right? Which is something that Will has spent the majority of his life trying to be, not swearing in his rap songs, right? That's not an easy way to live. And honestly, a lot of people of color have been oppressed. And if you're rolling your eyebrow or rolling your eyes because you're tired of hearing it, tune off. I don't care. You're going to keep hearing it because it hasn't stopped. If you go through, I think Jerry Saltz is an art critic for The New Yorker. He follows me and I follow him. He liked one of my videos. So I went into his Instagram channel, and I think it was like the second to the last most recent video. I think it was a video of Will Smith partying after the Oscars because he just won a fucking Oscar. And then I read through the comments, and it's a lot of white people saying terrible things about an individual that they don't fucking know, judging him. And then there's a lot of black people coming in there and saying, you guys need to mind your own fucking business, right? But if you read between the lines, you'll see a lot of people saying shit like, a lot of white people saying shit like, yeah, he did that at the Oscars, right? And you almost kind of want to, you almost hearing them say, they don't want to type it out, but you almost hear them saying, this is why we don't invite you guys to the Oscars, right? If you're going to come here and act like animals. Like you know they want to talk about it. You know they want to say it, but they're not going to put it in a public sphere, right? So then if they're typing that stuff out, like I'm only going to call out like what they're saying in private. And what that tells me, what Will Smith's behavior tells me is he doesn't give a fuck about white spaces. I'll say that again. He's reached a point in his life. We sat back and we watched a white president, follow up after 2 terms of a black president. This podcast is called Your One Black Friend. So I'm going to speak on these things every once in a while. It's not all going to be parallel universes and simulation hypothesis. It's what's in my mind. It is what it is, and I make no apologies for it. But we watched a Trump take after an Obama. And you saw the double standards plain as day. It just seems like there's a particular demographic in this country, white men, who have the freedom to behave however they want without consequences. Still waiting for Trump to face some fucking consequences for the shit he did the last 4 years. Meanwhile, a black man loses his temper in defense of his wife, who has an autoimmune disorder and she's losing her hair. And so she shaved her head as sort of an act of defiance against society's beauty standards. And you have another black man who decides to take a dig at her. And he should know better because he came out with a whole ass documentary talking about black women's struggles with their hair. It was a shitty documentary, by the way. But what I'm saying is he knew better. As a man who has children, he knew better. It may not be apparent to white people what he was doing, but it was a dog whistle, right? Not saying that we're dogs. It's just a terminology. Look it up. But it is a whistle. It's a silent, low vibrational whistle that people of color immediately understood as an attack against her as a black person, her as a black woman, and he knew it was something that she is sensitive about, and he did it under the guise of it's just a joke, because that's what men do, right? Not all men, but that's what some men do, right? They say some shit, but they hide it under a joke so that when you get upset and you respond, they go, it was just a joke, so then you seem like you're being irrational. So then your actions seem invalid, right? It's a way to sort of wrap up an action, right? Wrap up and like abuse. It's abuse. If I call you, if I call you a bitch, and I mean it, but I say it in a joking manner, and I watch you get offended, I can turn around and say, why are you getting so mad? I was just joking, right? And then you're just supposed to take it. Even though you knew that wasn't really a fucking joke. You just said it as a joke. Too many people are comfortable nowadays, right? You want to talk about Will Smith should have consequences. Well, Chris Rock met the consequences of his words. He didn't press charges because he knew he was in the wrong. That's what I think. Obviously, it is just my opinion. But I wanted to give you guys just certain things to think about. It wasn't really, people were calling it assault. He barely connected. It was more an act of, you want to embarrass my wife, right? You want to make jokes right? At my wife's expense, Black woman's expense. I'm going to embarrass you as well. Leave it there. Let them sort it out. I read comments, people talking about they should call the police. He should have been arrested. Yada, yada, yada. Like, Chris Rock feared for his life. Did he, though? It's Will Smith. He didn't punch him. It was very clear. The pictures all show it was open-handed. It was very intentional and open-handed. Once again, I know people are going to say, it seems like you're advocating violence. No, I'm advocating humanity because I know the world that we live in. It's 2022. Shit still happens. I don't know what fucking utopia y'all motherfuckers are living in, but we're living in, I'm here in the real fucking world. People get emotional and they react. You get emotional and you react. And if you were in a situation like that and you acted out of turn, I would defend you also. I'll say that again. If you were in a situation like that and you acted out of turn, I would defend you also because nobody's fucking perfect. We're just human beings. Now, somebody asked me, like, how would you feel if I had gotten slapped? And my response was, I don't think I would say anything to offend somebody to the point where they felt like they had to put their hands on me. I'm very mindful of not attacking people verbally because I understand that words hurt. If you Google emotional abuse, it's a thing, guys. It's what therapists exist for. Words hurt. Sometimes worse than somebody putting their hands on you. I've said this before, gosh, some of the deepest pain that I've experienced, not like physical pain. I can deal with I told you guys, I'm always in some kind of pain. All right, I've got a migraine right now recording this. My head is fucking stabbing. All right, I deal with this. It just happens every once in a while. It is what it is. Half these videos that I put out because I have these lights on me, right? They kind of hurt. They cause migraines. But I enjoy doing the TikToks. I've started doing them again and they're fun. And I enjoy producing content. So I'm going to keep doing it and I'll eat the fucking pain. Yeah? But gosh, like, if you said something to me about something like, I don't know, I'm sensitive about, like, your art sucks. I know it doesn't. So I'd probably be like, fuck you and your shitty opinion. But that would still sting, guys. And why are we acting like we're not aware? What reality are we living in? People on virtual reality are weird, dog. Like, we will act like we're not fucking human and we don't feel shit. Yes, he shouldn't have gone on the stage. But he did. So the fuck what? Let's move on. Another fun comment, fun as in fucked up, a comment I was getting is, she's not even a real disease. She's just losing her hair. Fuck you. I've talked about this on this podcast before, right? Like you were going, I think it was on a toxic positivity episode, actually. A person, you could be going through like your regular, first world country. I hate that terminology, but I utilize it so you guys know what I'm talking about. But first world country, like bullshit, right? And then somebody comes up to you and says, well, there's people in South America that are starving. There's homeless people on the street and you want to complain about your boyfriend dumped you. Okay, and I'm not saying I don't give a fuck about people on the streets. I'm not saying I don't give a fuck about people like starving in Latin America, but like I'm in pain, okay? Why are you trying to minimize the pain that I'm in right now? Because in your mind, it doesn't compare to what you consider something else's worse. Who are you to police how the fuck I feel? Fuck you. Shit, it's heavy to me. It's heavy. Her hair loss is heavy to her. For those of you who don't know this, I didn't want to put it on the TikTok channel because it wasn't about me and I didn't want people feeling sympathy for me because I'm over it. But when I was 13 years old, I was diagnosed with an ovarian tumor It was a medical malpractice situation. They never biopsied it, so I had to have my ovary and my fallopian tube removed on one side. It was a partial hysterectomy at the age of 13. At the age of 13. And because they never biopsied it, guess what? I had to follow up with chemotherapy, and I lost all my fucking hair. I woke up in the middle of the night screaming at 13 because my head felt like it was on fire. It itched so bad. And when I grabbed my hair to just stop the pain, the itching, chunks of my hair started falling out of my hand, and I started screaming. And my mother came to me in the middle of the night, and she said to me, "It's just hair. You're still here. It's just hair." And that still touches me because it's not just my pain, but it was the pain of a mother watching her only daughter. She just lost a child 3 years prior. My little sister was hit by a car. She just lost a child 3 years prior. And so now our only daughter was going through chemotherapy, and she had to see me going through that. And so not only did I have to feel my pain as an empath, I also had to feel her pain. And it was double that. Don't fucking tell somebody that their pain, what they're going through, isn't painful for them. See, in that situation, I was losing my hair from chemotherapy, and my mom said it was just hair. But that was because she was powerless. There was nothing else she could say to me, because she was just happy to have her child, and she was terrified and scared that I would not survive. And so she was telling herself it was just hair, even though she was watching her child go bald. And she was telling herself it will grow back. Her hair will grow back. She was telling me, but she was also telling herself because it hurt her to see her only daughter, her leftover daughter, her surviving daughter, suffer. I wouldn't wish that on anybody. I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. And then in my comments, there are women with alopecia, women with lupus who are talking about due to stress, due to COVID, whatever, they're starting to lose their hair too. I would not dare. In fact, I went through, and anybody that was disrespectful to those women, I deleted or blocked their comments. Fuck you, take that bullshit off my page. I don't care. I don't care if I lost followers. I think I did. But I also gained followers, so it evens out. But at the end of the day, I don't fucking care. If you cannot empathize with somebody else's pains, you're attempting to minimize them so you can be right. Fuck you. Fuck you. Okay? Then you have people in the other camp coming, "Oh, they're celebrities. Why are you defending celebrities?" I'm not defending anybody. I'm defending human beings. I'm not defending celebrities. Those are people acting like human beings. And I'm taking their life experiences and using it as an opportunity to learn and improve myself. Because that's how I operate. Everything is a learning experience. But I want to go back to what I said at the beginning when I said this expectation of perfection, it's debilitating. Stop trying to be fucking perfect. I met a perfectionist. You could tell they were crippled. They couldn't really go forward in life because they had this intense need to be perfect. And most importantly, they expected everybody around them to be perfect as well. And if you fell short, and I was aware of that in the getting to know this person's process, I was like, man, they're expecting me to be perfect because they expect themselves to be perfect. And so if you are that harsh on yourself, imagine the standards that they're holding everybody else to. And I'm about to disappoint the fuck out of you because I am not perfect. In fact, it took me a long time, the majority of my adult life, to reach that point where I was like, I don't have to be fucking perfect. This painting doesn't have to be perfect. This podcast doesn't have to be perfect. This video doesn't have to be perfect. The presentation doesn't have to be perfect. I don't have to live a perfect life. I don't have to have a perfect child. I don't have to have perfect friends. I don't have to have a perfect partner. I don't have to have perfect parents. I don't have to have a perfect situation. I'm just going to accept life and live it one day at a time. That took me time to reach it and to let go. Even the video I put out, I'm like, people are going to have a problem with it. but I'm not always going to put up the perfect video. And it took everything in me to like not take that shit down. In fact, I actually hit it for like 5 minutes. And then I was like, Joe, put it back up. Fuck it. Fuck it. It's how you feel in the moment. Be human. I respect the fuck out of people just for being human every once in a while. Can we normalize that? Because everybody wants to cancel the fuck out of people. I know I've said some problematic shit on my podcast, and there's a part of me in the back of my mind that I go, man, like one day I'm going to make it and some people are going to dig up shit. And I know the shit they're going to dig up. Like it's playing in my head. And there's a temptation to go and like delete those episodes. But I'm like, I'm not going to. I'm not perfect. At that moment in time years ago, right? At that moment in space time years ago, I didn't realize I was being problematic. I'm going to go ahead and apologize now because I'm not that same person that I was then. But there's information even in those episodes where I may have said something problematic here and there. At the time, I didn't think that they were problematic. I made a mistake. It's okay. You don't have to forgive me. I forgive myself. You're not perfect. You don't have to be. It's okay. Others don't have to forgive you. You can forgive yourself. You know, one thing that happens, you can make a mistake in this moment and then the next moment learn from it that quickly. And people still expect there to be like a fucking mourning period. All right. Dude apologized. And then he was at a party, like living in the moment. Okay, I won an Oscar. And he was like listening to his own song. And people took that video and posted it and were like, this guy's a fucking narcissist. He's a sociopath. He's a this. How is he a narcissist? This guy is in a marriage. He's in an unconventional marriage with a woman that everybody knows she's just living her life. They decided a long time ago that they're just going to stay together. That monogamy doesn't work for them, but their partnership and their friendship is more important. And they once again challenged status quo. They challenged norms of what a marriage is supposed to be. They have an open marriage. People want to bring up the fact that she slept with August. Whatever the fuck she did with him, first of all, that's none of your fucking business. They together went to therapy and decided that that's what works for them. And from what I understand, Will was seeing somebody as well. I've talked about monogamy on this podcast and you know, latter episodes or whatever. Like, mind your own fucking business. And why should that be an issue? Like, there's so many comments from like wild ass men coming on there and saying she belongs to the streets because she's comfortable with her body, with her sexuality, right? And then men calling him a simp because he accepts his wife's sexuality and her choices, and he once again loves her unconditionally. Do you know what unconditional means? It's that there is no condition. No matter what you do, I will still love you. Is this thing on? Now, some people come through and say, oh, that's dysfunctional. That's your fucked up label. Look at the marriages of your parents. Is that shit functional? Ooh, did I touch a nerve? Okay, I'll speak about my parents. Their marriage was not functional. And who decided what normative is? Some Beaver Cleaver, Leave It to Beaver sort of Brady Bunch type bullshit? Is that real life? Those are the standards that we're holding up to ourselves as far as like what relationships are supposed to be concerned. Now people are saying, well, he put his hands on Chris. That's something that an abuser would do. Do you fucking know that? Do you fucking know that? My husband boxed, never put his hand on a woman. My husband would defend me. If anybody tried to hurt me, he would never put his hands on me. And I know this because sometimes I lose my temper and I get in his face. And this guy is 6'4", 285. And I get in his face. I'm on my toes in his face, putting my finger in his face, all of that. Like, I'm unconscious at the moment, and never, ever, ever, he just turns around and walks away. He would never put his hands on me. I've watched this big, strong man stand down to the point where it forces me to reflect on my behavior. And you can fucking judge me. I know some people are thinking like, oh my God, fuck you. Fuck you. I'm glad that you're such a perfect person, that you never lost your temper to that point where you behaved in that way. You're better than me. Does that make you feel better? That's what it is, isn't it? When we walk around pointing our fingers to other people so that we can be like, I'm better than you. Right? That's the premise. All right. So, when the Bible says, let he who is without sin cast the first stone. I always say this in every episode. I'm not Christian, but truth is truth. We love throwing our stones. We love throwing our stones like we're perfect. All right? The problem is when you sharpen your stone to cast it, all right? You're also sharpening that stone against yourself, right? Remember I said I had a friend who had such a high expectation of perfection for themselves that they were never happy with anything that they did. You could hear it by the way they talked about their accomplishments. It was just not ever good enough. That is hell. To never be content with the things that you do, that is hell. I know because I've been there. I always go back to my art. I would struggle. I would say, there's a reason why there's pain in painting. But that's because I was busy fighting the process. All right? Because instead of trying to create, I was trying to be perfect. Because instead of trying to create, I was trying to be perfect. Because instead of trying to create, I was trying to be perfect. Kanye West did this thing at the concert where he said the reason why he was a supporter of Donald Trump. I am not a supporter of Donald Trump. I respect Kanye's character because this is a motherfucker who goes up and does not give a fuck. He's just his genuine, authentic self. He says what he feels. And once again, some people think that that's problematic. Well, if you're so constrained by society's expectations of you, that's you. Keep being normal. He is not normal. I don't think I can do half the shit that he does. Right? But on some level, you gotta admire his authenticity. But he said, Trump can just go on TV and just go, and nobody says shit to him. What he was saying, he's not very good at articulating his thoughts, but if you read between the lines, what Kanye was saying was, Black people don't have that same freedom to move authentically, to be in that moment, right? Like, you say something, you feel something in that moment, and people go, like, there was the video, the same video I posted defending, somebody came up in there, and they were like, oh, why are you so angry? And I'm like, I'm literally not angry. Like, what the fuck? Doesn't matter what you do, right? It doesn't matter what you do. Somebody's going to come in with a label and try to control you. You see, it's not just a Black woman thing. You see this with women in general, right? A woman's just like minding her own business. Somebody shows up to her, says something crazy to her. She responds in a human way. Stop fucking talking to me. You're rude. What is a man's response? Wow, you're a bitch. Is that necessary? Right? Why are you so angry? Right? And then a man does it, and he's strong, he's assertive, right? These are positive traits. But a woman acts like a human being, first and foremost, and it's a problem. That's where we're at. And that's what Kanye was essentially trying to say. Time and place, sure. But none of us are perfect. I can't, you can't sit there and say that you've never acted out of pocket at the wrong situation. I've been in situations. I've talked about situations on this podcast. Let's go back 2 years. I think right around January, February, I was in a situation. We were at a restaurant and some people said some crazy shit to me. And then I had to retaliate. All right. And after the fact, the person tried to fucking gaslight me like it was my fault. Well, you shouldn't have done this and you said this and that. I was angry. You antagonized me. I tried to get out of the situation. You made it worse. You tried to make it worse and I lost my temper. They lost their temper too. I'm not bringing that up for any other reason, just for an example. I'm over it. It was 2 years ago. I've let it go. These are human things, right? Human things. The world that people think we're living in, where we're virtue signaling online, where everybody's got an opinion on how shitty everybody else is and what they would do because they're so perfect. That's not real life. You get it, right? It's not real life. It's not real life. You put the phone down, you turn around, you live life, shit happens. And then you have to just fucking deal in that situation. And sometimes the narrative takes over. Sometimes the narrative takes over. I've talked about this over and over again. Sometimes we go unconscious and the story takes over. What was supposed to happen yesterday was what happened. Will Smith, and to a certain extent even Chris Rock, went unconscious, and we don't know what's really controlling the narratives of our story. I keep telling you this, an underlying intelligence that's directing our paths and sort of weaving this whole thing together. But when there's that kind of a gigantic sort of break in a person's personality, pay attention, learn from it, but also have compassion. I'll leave you with this. Somebody said, I saw a video on TikTok where a person mentioned Chadwick Boseman. Do you guys remember when he was his very last post? For those who don't know, he was the guy who played Black Panther. In his very last, he also played Jackie Robinson on the movie 42. Was it 42? Anyway, great actor. Apparently a phenomenal human being. But he posted a video where he went from being the Black Panther, the way we knew him, big, strong, masculine, to looking emaciated. And I remember the comments because I went and I looked because I was tagged. And I was like, oh my God, what is wrong with him? Something is seriously wrong with him. I was worried it was even drugs, whatever. Then I went and I looked through the comments and people were being so fucking vicious. So vicious. And he took the picture down. And at the time, we had no idea what the fuck was going on. Some people were saying it was because he was vegan. Nobody fucking knew. Nobody knew. But it should have been a red flag for people to show genuine compassion, regardless of what was going on. When you see that break in character, genuine compassion, regardless of what was going on, but people weren't. And then turns out he was battling prostate cancer, and he posted that just to connect with his fans, even though he was sick and dying, and people attacked him. And I can't imagine how he must have felt in that situation. He ended up dying shortly after that, a few months after that or so. I'm not quite sure about the timeline, but he passed away. We don't have enough about what's going on in that household between Will and Jada. A woman who's losing her hair, a woman who's oversharing. Will, he's being emotional. They're oversharing. We make jokes, but that is a break in a pattern, and that's something I tend to pay attention to when a person sort of deviates from a pattern of behavior. That's an eyebrow raise. And when they do that, I like to take a step back and give them space to be human and tell myself, I don't know what's going on. Maybe don't condone their behavior, but I can understand it. All right. And once again, in a similar situation, more than likely, I would have done the same thing. Or maybe I wouldn't, but not because I thought it was the wrong thing to do, because I would not have had the courage to get up in front of all those people and do that. I said, fuck the fucking Oscars. Right? to a certain extent, maybe fuck what people think about me. You know? So, I don't know. This is a call, I guess, for action. I think I want to leave you guys with this. There's a story by Dostoyevsky called Tales from the Underground. One of my favorite short stories. In it, he describes a man who talks about how civilization causes man, in general, mankind, to eventually sort of rail against being controlled like keys in a keyboard, right? Eventually, he says, a man who has been essentially tied up with, bound by the chains of civilization will do something irrational. I wanted to read that whole chapter to you guys. I think, and I will. Just a short paragraph. He says, I suspect, gentlemen, that you are looking at me with compassion. You tell me again that an enlightened and developed man, such in short as the future man will be, cannot consciously desire anything disadvantageous to himself, that there can be proved that can be proved mathematically. So I'll say that again. I suspect, gentlemen, that you are looking at me with compassion. You tell me again that an enlightened and developed man, such in short as the future man will be, cannot consciously desire anything disadvantageous to himself, that can be proved mathematically. I thoroughly agree it can by mathematics, but I repeat for the 100th time, there is one case, one only, when man may consciously, purposely desire what is injurious to himself, what is stupid, very stupid, simply in order to have the right to desire for himself even what is very stupid, and not to be bound by an obligation to desire only what is sensible. See, there's a key there. It's about freedom. At the end of the day, even when we are bound to be civil, there is a part of man, the beast, that is bound to the God, that will rebel, that wants to shake the chains off. He says, of course, this very stupid thing, this caprice of ours may be in reality, gentlemen, more advantageous for us than anything else on earth, especially in certain cases. And in particular, it may be more advantageous than any advantage, even when it does an obvious harm and contradicts the soundest conclusions of our reason concerning our advantage. For in any circumstances, it preserves for us what is most precious and most important, that is, our personality, our individuality. And so I leave you with this. I always like quoting this verse. I've quoted it before, but I'll quote it again. By Jay-Z in the '03 Bonnie and Clyde song. He says, I'm not perfect. Nobody walking this earth's surfaces. So girlfriend, work with the kid. I think in order for us to have compassion for ourselves, we have to learn to have compassion for other people and stop expecting them to be perfect. Literally, it's okay to just be like, you know what? They fucked up. This constant judging people, wanting to throw away a whole entire human being for making a mistake. Not only does it hurt the other person, not only is it a kind of violence against the entire person to dismiss and throw away an entire human being because they faltered. It's also a violence against yourself, because if you can lash out in that way, you can also expect that shit back to you, right? You can also expect that you'll be thrown away in that way too. And the way karma is set up, that may very well happen to you. Karma has a fucked up way, right? Cause and effect of teaching you lessons that you need to learn after you've gloated after the fact. So just keep that in mind. Anyway, that's all I'm going to say about that. Looking forward to kind of putting this behind us and talking more about on topic over the next, few days and the next couple of videos on the TikTok channel. All right, guys, enjoy and have a great week, and I'll catch up with you guys soon. Thanks for listening.